Welcome and thanks for clicking on this video. So I'm not in the business of wasting anybody's time. So if you clicked on this video because you're looking for some tips and tricks and you want to be able to draw people to click on your video, I ain't talking about that. Sorry. I will not be offended if you click out. But if you want to maybe hear about a different way to think about how we're writing YouTube titles, stick around. So this morning, I was working out, listening to my app as one does, and one of the parts was speaking about something that just gave me an epiphany. So I'm going to try to summarize up what was discussed. So it said, author Lee Strobel was getting ready to leave for work one day when he felt a nudge by the Holy Spirit to invite his atheist friend and coworker to Easter service. So one can only imagine how that conversation probably even went when you go to your friend that does not believe in something that you believe in. You're like, hey, come join me. It'll be a good time. So needless to say, the coworker friend did not go with him to the Easter service at church. But years later, after preaching at a service, Lee Strobel was approached by a stranger that thanked him for his spiritual influence on his life. Lee was like, that's very nice, but who are you? So the guy told him a little bit about his story and let him know, one day I was on my hands and knees fixing tile in the office when you walked in. I don't think you even saw me. You started talking to this guy about God and Jesus and Easter, and he wasn't interested at all. But I was sitting there listening. And so because of what he heard him talking about to the atheist friend, he had decided, you know what, that's something that he really needed in his life, and he was going to go and get his wife and his child and bring them to that service. And years later, he was still very much into the spiritual realm in which he embarked because of a conversation that he overheard. Go figure. Right? Okay, what does this have to do with YouTube, right? The titles that we put on our videos as people scroll past them and they take those milliseconds to decide, do I listen to this? Do I not listen to this? Is basically like someone walking in or being at some place where they can overhear a piece of a conversation, right? Because when you overhear a piece of a conversation, if there was something that you heard from that conversation, either you're like, this is something I really want to listen to and see where this is going. Or, nah, I ain't interested. I'm going to keep it moving. When maybe you that's still sitting here watching and you're like, I got to see where she was going. I got to know. Or maybe the person that was like, oh, nah, she ain't saying what I thought she was saying. So they clicked out. They're no longer tuned in. And the only way for me to be able to give you guys gems is to talk about things that I have experienced or that I am currently going through. Like this morning, where we're currently on week 2 of my arthritis flare. No medications. Doing supplements, taking some naproxen, and healing myself with exercise and nutrition. So I'm pretty sure I'm learning foods that I need to avoid or avoid, especially during a flare. But this cold weather that I have no control of, it's not agreeing with my body. And then I have the choice of, okay, do I now use this as my excuse? This is why I ain't getting out of bed today, or this is why I ain't working out, or this is why I'm gonna just eat whatever I want because my body is already acting crazy. So what's a little sprinkle of something else, right? I didn't choose to do either of those things. I got up, I started moving around, I took my supplements, and then I worked out. And I feel like a year ago, the me then would have said, that's crazy. How does that even make sense? You're in immense pain. You're struggling to like lift your arm to put on your shirt, and you gonna go work out. But I now know that getting my body moving, having some circulation, not allowing my body to stay stiff after sleeping for 8-9 hours is beneficial to me. I don't like it at first. It hurts at first. But once I get into the groove of it, it helps me. Is there anything that you can relate to where you don't want to do it, or it really sucks to do it at first, or it hurts to do it at first, or it's difficult to do, but it's all for the better? Creating boundaries, changing our diet and nutrition, working out, communicating that extremely difficult thing to somebody, trying something new in our career, or being an entrepreneur. There's so many things in life where when we don't know how long we need to go through that disgusting, gross, painful, feeling of it, we think, well, doesn't it just make so much more sense to just lay here and let life happen instead of experiencing life on our own? But then we aren't really living, right? Because you have to go through life to be living life.